The alarm on the medical scanner was already screaming when they pulled the human out of the wreck. I remember that sound more than anything else, because it never stopped for 6 long hours. My name is Doran, and I was the one standing closest when we brought him in. His name, we later learned, was Ethan. His suit was torn at the shoulder, his leg was bent in a way that legs should never bend, and blood was leaking from under his cracked helmet. Our scanner read his body in seconds, and gave us a number that made half the crew laugh out loud. 11% chance of survival. Our ship physician, a calm old officer named Vesa, looked at the number twice before she believed it. 6 minutes, she said, maybe less. I leaned over him and spoke through the translator box strapped to my chest. I wanted him to understand clearly, because I thought it would be kind to tell him the truth before the end. Your body is failing, I said. There is nothing more we can do. I am sorry, but you should know. He looked at me with one eye, the other swollen shut, blood pooling strangely at the corner of it. His lips moved before any sound came out. Watch, he whispered. I laughed. I am ashamed to admit that now, but I laughed, and so did the others standing near me. We had heard old stories about humans refusing to accept the truth. Stories we always treated as exaggeration. We did not know yet that we were about to watch one of those stories happen right in front of us. 6 minutes passed. He did not die. Vesa ran the scan again, certain the machine had failed. The numbers were still terrible. His lung was still damaged. The swelling near his skull had grown worse by every reading we had, yet somehow, the number that was supposed to reach 0 refused to move past a stubborn single digit. This should not be possible, Vesa muttered, more to herself than to me. Ethan had not moved from where he lay, but his human eyes, both open now, stared straight at the ceiling. His breathing was rough and heavy, but it continued. By the 20-minute mark, he was speaking again, this time giving instructions. Not requests. Instructions. He told Vesa where to press down to slow the bleeding. He told her his blood type, and which of our unfamiliar medicines might match what his body needed, calculating it from basic chemistry, the way the rest of us might recall the names of our own children. He is directing his own treatment, Vesa said, and this time there was no laughter in her voice at all. By the second hour, Ethan had guided Vesa through a small procedure that she would later describe as being taught by a dying man how to save his own life. I watched from behind the glass, my hands pressed against it without meaning to. His one free hand kept clenching and opening in a steady rhythm, like a small machine refusing to stop working. Why are you doing this? I asked him. You were told the truth. You should be resting, not fighting. He turned his head slowly toward me. His face held an expression I did not yet have a word for, something between pain and pure stubbornness. 11 is not 0, he said. 11 is a chance, and a chance is a job. I did not understand what he meant. Not then. It would take me hours to understand fully. By the 4th hour, something had changed inside that room, and it was not Ethan. It was us. Ren, our ship engineer, who had laughed the loudest when we first heard the number 11, was now standing beside me at the glass, completely silent, watching a man with a fractured skull calmly explain his own blood chemistry, while his hands trembled from something Vesa called shock, a word our language does not fully translate, because our species usually stops functioning the moment the body says stop. Ethan had clearly never received that message, or perhaps he had, and simply ignored it. He should not still be alive, Ren said quietly. He knows that, I answered. I think he simply refuses to agree with it. Neither of us laughed anymore. By the 6th hour, Ethan sat up on his own. Vesa checked her scanner 3 times, convinced it must be malfunctioning. His lung was still weak. The swelling near his skull had only just begun to shrink, slowly, far too slowly for someone who should already be gone. Yet there he was, sitting upright, asking quietly for water. He looked directly at me. I had not moved from my spot near the glass in some time. Told you, he said, his voice raw but steady. To watch. That was the moment Ren left the room at a pace our people usually reserve for true emergencies. I learned later that he went straight to seal every door between the medical bay and the engine room. He was not the only one. Word spread fast through a ship as small as ours, and by the time Ethan finished his water, most of the crew had found sudden reasons to be somewhere else, somewhere with a locked door between themselves and the small, quiet room where a human had just refused to die on schedule. I stayed behind. I told myself it was because someone needed to record what had happened, but that was not the full truth. I stayed because I needed to understand what I had just witnessed. A creature had been told, with complete confidence, that he had only minutes left to live. Instead of accepting it, instead of giving in to fear or despair, he had treated the news the way one might treat an unwanted delay, something to be managed, argued with, and eventually overcome through sheer determination. "What are you?" I asked him near the end of the 6th hour, once his breathing had steadied, and the numbers on the scanner had finally, unbelievably, begun to rise. He thought about the question for a long moment, staring at nothing in particular. "Tired," he said. "Alive. Same thing, most days." I did not laugh again after that, not once. I have replayed those first 6 minutes of laughter more times than I would like to admit, wondering how deep that memory would sit with me. We had heard whispers from traders and old reports, all claiming that humans simply did not know when to give up. I had always assumed that trait was a weakness, a strange flaw in an otherwise fragile species. Watching Ethan prove us wrong over 6 long hours taught me it was something else entirely. It was strength wrapped in stubbornness, quiet and unshakable. We had laughed at 11%. None of us laughed again after that day. Later, once Ethan had rested enough to speak clearly, I sat beside him and asked what kept him fighting through pain that should have ended everything within minutes. He looked at me, calm despite everything his body had endured. "Giving up felt easier," he admitted. "But easier is not the same as right. I had people waiting for me. I was not ready to let a number decide my story before I did." His words settled somewhere deep inside me, somewhere I did not know existed until that moment. I had spent my whole life believing survival was simple mathematics, chances calculated and accepted without argument. Ethan showed me that for humans, those numbers were only a starting point, never a final answer. By the time our ship reached the nearest station capable of proper treatment, Ethan was walking again, slowly, leaning on a support but moving under his own strength. The crew who once fled from his room now greeted him with quiet nods, some even offering help he did not ask for, but accepted with simple gratitude. Vesa, still amazed by what she had witnessed, kept detailed notes on his recovery, notes she said she would study for years to come. Ren, once so quick to flee, now found himself curious, rather than afraid, asking Ethan questions about how humans trained their minds to endure such pain. As for me, I carried something different away from those 6 hours. I carried humility, the kind that comes from watching your own assumptions crumble in front of you. I had walked into that medical bay certain of an ending. I walked out, having witnessed a beginning instead. Before Ethan left our ship, he turned to me one final time. "Thank you for staying," he said simply. "I should thank you," I replied. "You taught me something I will never forget." He smiled, tired but genuine. "Just remember, next time someone tells you they only have minutes left, wait and watch before you decide the story is already over." I have carried those words with me ever since, through every mission, every difficult moment, every time doubt tried to convince me that an ending was certain. I think of Ethan, of that quiet, stubborn will that refused to bow to numbers or fear, and I remind myself that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is simply refuse to stop. We had told him he would die in minutes. 6 hours later, we were the ones left changed forever.